another episode of Tales from the Vault. This time, we are going to be venturing into Kingsport, Tennessee, and the story of unaliving Mary, the rogue elephant who lost her life in Tennessee. In today's episode of Tales from the Vault, we are going to be venturing into a neighboring town of Kingsport, Tennessee, where a rogue circus elephant was unalived. This is a very sad story. This should have never happened. I think it was cruel and needless what happened. So, I'm going to now read you the story of Big Mary, or unaliving Mary, as she was referred to. So let's get into this. When a rogue circus elephant was unalived in East Tennessee. Big Mary, the circus elephant. Mary was more than a performing elephant to Charlie Sparks. His father had purchased Mary in 1898 when Mary was 4 years old. She had been the family pet ever since. She became part of his famous traveling circus in her coming years. Charlie married Addie Mitchell, who was the circus's head cook and animal doctor. The couple then raised Mary as if she were the child they had never had. They instructed employees to be kind and gentle with all the circus animals, but especially with Mary. Mary would become one of the company's biggest attractions, quite literally. She was billed as the largest living land animal on Earth. Her owner claimed she was 3 inches bigger than Jumbo, P.T. Barnum's famous pachyderm. At 30 years, Mary was rumored to be 5 tons of pure talent. She could play 25 tunes on musical instruments without missing a note. She was the pitcher on the circus's baseball game routine. Her .400 batting average astonished millions in New York, and she could even stand on her head. Rumor and exaggeration swarmed about Mary like flies. She was worth a small fortune. $20,000, Charlie Sparks claimed. She was Charlie Sparks' favorite, his cash cow, his claim to circus fame. She was the leader of his troupe of 5 elephants, an exotic crowd pleaser, an unpredictable giant. Being a family-owned circus, Sparks advertised his show as 100% Sunday school circus, meaning it was fair and honest. Mary was said to be 11 feet 9 inches. Charlie Sparks, the owner of the Sparks world-famous shows, was a frustrated man. His circus was too big compared to his southern rival, John Robinson's 4-ring circus and menagerie. A circus's net worth was measured in rolling stocks and elephants. Sparks' dog and pony show traveled in a mere 10 railroad cars compared to Robinson's 42. Sparks could only boast of only 5 elephants compared to Robinson's dozen. Never mind Barnum's and Bailey's 84 railroad cars was beyond Charlie's reach. So, Charlie did the best that he could, traveling around the South, putting up advance posters and enticing folks with a noon circus parade prior to the day's 2 performances. Sparks' posters claimed a certain degree of moral superiority. 25 years of honest dealing with the public, moral, entertaining, and instructive. The show never breaks a promise. What else did Sparks offer? Educated sea lions, grease-painted and powdered dogs, and humans posing like Greek statues. Clowns, the man who walks upon his head, and elephant. Mary had a good run until the circus made its way to Virginia. On the morning of September 11th, 1916, Sparks' world-famous show had arrived in the small town of St. Paul, Virginia, a tiny mining town in the Clinch River Valley. A man named Walter Red Eldridge, after taking a job as a janitor at the Riverside Hotel, Eldridge found himself pushing a broom and dreaming of moving on. Eldridge made a fatal decision that day, and thinking he had nothing to lose, he approached the head elephant trainer, Paul Jacoby, for a job with the circus. He was hired as an underkeeper of the elephants, where he watered and fed them. Eldridge was instructed to keep a gentle care philosophy when taking care of the elephants and Mary. After the show in St. Paul, Eldridge traveled with the show to Kingsport, Tennessee, on September the 12th. Kingsport would have its first county fair, and Sparks' world-famous show was part of it. Eldridge filled the role as an elephant handler and was given a bull hook resembling a fireplace poker with a hook on the end. Many people from the town and surrounding areas came to visit the circus, as many people had never seen an elephant. This is where Mary's life would take a turn. The elephants from the show were being taken down to a watering ditch between shows. It's easy to imagine that what he lacked in skill and knowledge he made up for with an all-or-nothing bravado. A small man carrying a big stick can be dangerous. Eldridge used the bull hook to guide the elephants down to the water. Even though he was trained to be gentle and treat the elephants with care, he continued to use this method to lead the elephants to the water. According to the story, during the trip down to the watering ditch, Mary suddenly stopped. She was then seen taking a piece of watermelon off the ground that she had spotted. Eldridge then prodded her with the hook. This made Mary become enraged. She pulled away from him and just blowed a real big, and when she did, she then picked up Eldridge up by his waist with her trunk, then flung him into the side of the drink stand, knocking the whole side out of it. When he hit the ground, Mary then walked over to him, set her foot on his head, and crushed it, ending his life. Witnesses screamed and ran for their lives. Charlie Sparks heard the commotion from far away, rushed over to see what was going on. He put his arm around Mary's trunk, trying to calm her as he had done before. He then saw Eldridge's body on the ground, where he realized what had happened. The witnesses and nearby crowd of people had started yelling, "Unalive the elephant! Unalive the elephant!" leaving Sparks alarmed. Kingsport officials quickly arrested Mary and held her chained up outside the jail. Meanwhile, Charlie Sparks and his circus staff had an upsetting decision to make about Mary's future. In the 1900s, it was common to just rename an elephant and sell them to another circus if they had injured or unalived a human. Mary's story was different. Charlie Sparks was no fool. He knew no town in Tennessee would invite his circus to perform with a rogue elephant. Johnson City, where performances were scheduled for September the 26th, had already passed an ordinance restricting carnival operations within city limits in order to protect its citizens from wholesale fleecing. It was common knowledge that Johnson City officials were looking for an excuse to ban all traveling shows. As valuable as Mary was, she had to go. The news about Eldridge's passing had spread throughout northeastern Tennessee like crazy, where newspaper outlets were calling her unaliving Mary. Creating a big outcry in the incidents, many cities would ban Mary and the rest of her circus from their cities. There were also rumors going around that a mob of people were going to unalive Mary themselves. How to take care of Mary? Sidearms, of course, were the first choice. Just after Eldridge was unalived, blacksmith Hence Cox used his side piece 25 times at Mary. The projectiles hardly fazed her. So another choice was the use of electricity. They tried to hit her with 44,000 volts, and she danced a little bit. Some claimed that electricity was never an option because there wasn't enough power running in the railroad yet to affect Mary, due to the fact that most American railroads continued to use steam locomotives until the 1930s. Another choice was attaching her between two opposing engines moving in opposite directions, or crushing her between the two engines. Both were dismissed as cruel. Sparks decided that the only humane way to end Mary's life would be to hang her. He and his circus would have to travel south of the Clinchfield Railroad. The railroad had a huge 100-ton derrick that they used to unload lumber. This seemed to be the only way to carry a 5-ton elephant. The circus headed to the railroad's headquarters and repair facilities in Irwin, Tennessee. On September the 13th, the circus had arrived. They first put on an unscheduled show without Mary. She stayed chained up out back while their circus performed. Mary was observed to be swaying back and forth as being nervous. After the show, it was claimed up to 2,500 people from Irwin and surrounding areas had filled the railroad yard between 4 and 5 o'clock, gathering around the turntable and powerhouse on that drizzly afternoon to watch Mary's demise. Many performers of the circus decided to sit out Mary's demise as they couldn't bear to witness it. Sparks then attempted to lead Mary calmly to the derrick, an attempt to fool her. He and the other elephants walked to the derrick as if they were going to the watering hole. Instead, the attempt did not fool Mary, though, as she kept hesitating and trumpeting loudly. They marched the troop down Love Street, trunk to tail. When Mary reached the derrick, her legs were quickly chained to the rail to keep her still. The other elephants were led away from what was about to happen. A crew member threw a large chain around her neck, fitted the other end through a steel ring, and then the derrick lifted her. The chain began tightening around her neck, and her feet began to lift off the ground. But someone had forgotten to release her leg arms on the rail. Her tendons could be heard being torn. Then suddenly, Mary hit the ground from about 5 feet because the 7/8-inch chain around her neck broke. When she hit the ground, she sat upright, immobilized from the pain of a broken hip. This created panic in the crowd as the people started screaming in fear she would begin to attack. But Mary was limp on the rail and couldn't move. The crew then tried again as one of the crewmen ran up her back as if she were a small hill, using a much heavier chain around her neck. The winch was then put in motion, and the chain held, and within a few minutes, she had expired. They left her suspended for half an hour. A vet examined her and pronounced her deceased. During the vet's examination, he concluded Mary had a severely infected tooth in the spot Eldridge had prodded her with a bull hook. Before Mary was buried in a hastily dug grave, an infamous photo of her suspended was taken. Many claim the photo is fake, but researchers agree that it is real. They then led the other elephants back to the circus, but they noticed Mary's absence immediately. As they were led back, they called out to her several times. Later that night, one of the elephants escaped their pen and ran toward the place his friend had expired. He was eventually captured and returned to the circus without incidents. It seemed to be a clear indication he was mourning his fallen friend, and according to reports, it took the surviving elephants a while to adjust to Mary's absence. For the first few performances afterward, they seemed distracted, as if hoping to hear her make her entrance as the star of the show. When it became clear it wouldn't happen, they adjusted to the change with a sense of normalcy and continued the show as well. The aftermath. There is a woman in Irwin who has made it her mission to memorialize Mary, to wash the town clean of the elephants unalivened. She believes that Irwin has far too long taken the route for Mary's downfall. Kingsport, the railroad, and Mr. Sparks are to blame, not Irwin. People feel so guilty about it, we've got to release it. It is a sad, sad thing that happened, but we have to let it go, she said. From that dreary day forward, Irwin, Tennessee was known as that town who unalived an elephant. But that's not the end of the story. In 2016, on the day of her 100th anniversary of her passing, Irwin kicked off the newest event for the first time, a week-long celebration of elephants. They got together and paid local artists to paint a set of 8 fiberglass elephants, which were displayed throughout the town and eventually auctioned off. Then, an Irwin resident took the money they had raised from the auction and called the Elephant Sanctuary, located in Hohenwald, Tennessee, where they provide abandoned circus and zoo elephants with individualized care, the companionship of a herd, and the opportunity to live out the rest of their lives in a safe haven, roaming freely in open fields, dedicated to their well-being and to educate the public of the needs of elephants and the crisis facing elephants in the wild. The facility is about 6 hours away, saying, quote, "I know this is a really weird phone call. I live in Irwin, and we feel really, really bad about Mary." The man on the other end of the line laughed and said, "We talk about Irwin and Mary all the time. When anyone came to our sanctuary, they would eventually ask about Mary. And so, 100 years later, a town that had unalived an elephant formed a close partnership with an elephant sanctuary meant for animals just like her. Now, their week-long extravaganza occurs every year, and the people of Irwin have found a way to come to terms with the darkest moments of their town's history. So, that is the story of unaliving Mary. That's not her name. She has another name, but I can't say that on here. But if you want to do some research on her, just look up Mary the elephant, or another word that starts with M that means unaliving Mary, or Big Mary. Like I said, it was a sad, sad tale. To me, this shouldn't have happened. There should have been some way that they could have taken care of her and not had to exterminate her. But, money speaks sometimes. So I hope you, it's a sad, sad story, but I hope you enjoyed this tale. I not enjoyed it. There's no way you could enjoy it, but I hope you found it interesting. I'll end it here, and I'll say this. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to hit that notification button, and to share this video. And until next time, my crafty crew, I'll see you on the flip side.